Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
A big little nugget yesterday that came from our good friend Rob Domofsky, ESPN, who covers the Packers for ESPN.com. Obviously now, after the draft is over with, the big question mark surrounding Green Bay is, what's the status of one Jaire Alexander? And Rob tweeted out yesterday, according to a source, the Packers and Jaire Alexander continue to talk about a possible resolution, which could include a reconciliation to where Alexander plays for the Packers in 2025. All options are still on the table: release, trade, or a return. And this comes just a couple days ago, too, that Tom Silverstein from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, covers the Packers for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, said that the Packers were still looking to trade Jaire Alexander. It might have been a few days ago. So, I think that's a big update. I think that's a big update for this Packers team. Because, again, you look at the draft, and you look at what the Packers did in the draft, and they did target corner early. Waited till the 7th round for the second year in a row to grab a corner. And I think after the post-draft, if you look at the depth chart and you look at the roster, at least for me, I look at corner as maybe the biggest question mark in terms of depth. Yes, they signed Hobbs this offseason. They've got Nixon. They've got Carrington Valentine. Javon Bullard could play a little nickel. But that's still a question mark for me, especially when you consider that maybe Nixon and Hobbs, especially Hobbs, is better as an outside corner. Or is better as an inside corner, excuse me. So then you're looking at, all right, the weakness may be outside corner. If somehow these two parties, Alexander and the Packers, can sing a little Kumbaya and, shake their hands and kind of get their differences swept to the side and say all is good, that answers a big question. Now, I know there's going to be some fans saying, well, I would have it so Jaire's got incentives for this year, playtime incentives. That's cool. That's great. And I think the Packers would totally agree with you on that. The big issue, though, is that Jaire already has a contract, and Jaire doesn't have to agree to that. He doesn't have to if he doesn't want to. And apparently that has been a major hookup from other rumors and reports out there when it's come to the trade, that Jaire's refusal to kind of adjust his contract. So I don't know if these two sides can come to an agreement and Jaire suits up for the green and gold in 2025, if they'll have a little bit of a restructuring contract or not. I don't know. Jaire doesn't really have to. He could say no and just force the hand of Green Bay saying, all right, welcome back, and you get everything paid, or they'd straight up release him. From a playing standpoint, I think if Jaire's back and he's with Green Bay, just from straight up looking at it from the team, I think that's a huge win in terms of the depth at that cornerback spot, and it answers some questions. Now, I understand that, well, there'll still be questions remaining about his health and that. I get that. I understand that. But when we look at it on paper, right now in the offseason, adding Jaire back to that depth chart alleviates some of the concern, a lot of the concern, when it comes to the cornerback depth. And I think he would be welcomed from his teammates back with open arms. I mean, we heard what Jordan Love had to say a couple weeks ago about Jaire Alexander. So I think that's a big nugget from Rob, that, hey, maybe he actually could. Maybe they're actually talking this through, and maybe he could return. Now, I feel like it might be just for one more year, because then it might be a little bit easier to move on from Jaire, from just a straight-up release standpoint. But I think this would be a huge boost to this team. And then you look at the roster, and then you ask the question, where is the weakness? Maybe still a little corner because you want to add some protection with Jaire in case he's hurt again. Protection in terms of an outside corner in that. But it would solve or it would answer a lot of questions when it comes to that position group. It's definitely intriguing to follow. I think a lot of it might have been due to the fact that the Packers have in mind a price that they want for Jaire. They're not getting that price, so they're looking at all avenues. I mean, if they're willing to go to the table and try to reconcile this thing, it's probably because a big part of it is that Green Bay is not getting what they're asking for. And they probably view it as he's more of a benefit to us right now playing than it is to just ship him off for a 7th-round pick or straight up releasing. It's fascinating and kind of curious to see how Goody and the Packers are going to manage this. And this comes yesterday official too. It was reported a couple weeks ago that the Packers had brought in linebacker Isiah Simmons for a workout, former first-round pick. Now he's kind of listed as a linebacker, safety. Did a little bit of that with the Giants, but the Packers list him as a linebacker. And this is kind of a Swiss Army knife type of player. Simmons, 6'4", about 238 pounds. He joins a group of players that the Packers have accumulated in the last year plus, where I would kind of term them as Swiss Army knife type players because they can maybe do a couple different things. Whether it's like Isiah Simmons, who is a linebacker, safety, hybrid type of player. But then you look at Javon Bullard, who they drafted last year. Safety, slot, nickel, corner type of player. I would even throw rookie Colin Oliver into that. He's between a linebacker and a defensive end in terms of his weight, in terms of his size. But he's a pretty darn good pass rusher. Offense, it's Jade Reed's, and then I'd throw in rookie Savion Williams into that. So they've got an interesting group of players where I'd kind of term them as those Swiss Army or jack-of-all-trades type of players. Bringing in, it's kind of like the college depth charts of just athlete. Now it's up to LaFleur and Jeff Hafley and the other coaches, the position coaches, to put these players in a position to succeed, to put Isiah Simmons in a position to positively affect this team. Maybe it's special teams. He's a really good special teams player. But if he's on the field, are there certain packages for him? What is he doing on the defensive side? Same for Colin Oliver. Great pass rusher. But is he going to be a 3-down player? Probably not. You're probably going to have him in on 3rd downs or obvious passing situations. But it's interesting that they're bringing in like these few different players that could do different things, bringing in these quote-unquote athletes. I'm not having a lot of high expectations for Isiah Simmons. It's not even a guarantee he's going to make the ball club. And I know we get caught up on, former first-rounder. He was available at the end of April for a reason. The fact that he was still available at the end of April, there's a reason. If he was playing still at the level of a first-round pick, he'd have a contract by now, an extension, probably making a good chunk of money. But could the Packers get a reclamation project out of him? Can Jeff Hafley find a role for him within this defense? Whether it is kind of that hybrid linebacker, safety type of role, a blitzing linebacker. I think we all just want some athletes. We want some dudes on the field that can play football. It's just goes back to making sure that you're putting players in a position to succeed, not only for themselves, because if they're succeeding for themselves, they're probably succeeding for the team overall. And having that open mind, because there's too many coaches, and we've seen it over the years for all these teams, even for the Packers, whether it's an ego thing. Like, okay, you're going to do this, We're making you do this. You're playing this particular spot, or you're playing this. This is going to be your role. But if that's not what they do well, or they do something better, if they're better suited for a different role, why wouldn't you want them to do that? Because it may help them better. And in turn, if they're going to play better in that role, it would help your team out. So I look at, okay, now you're bringing him aboard. It's up to the coaching staff and up to Jeff Hafley and his defensive staff to put a guy like Isiah Simmons. How do we get the most out of him? How do we get his best football out of him?